when it comes to analysis interfaces. And this is an example from Google Analytics, which I'm sure many of you recognize. This is just kind of an overview screen from GA4. It presents a lot of raw data, which is really helpful. It gives you a big access to just the overall interactions with your site, and you can use those to gain essential insights and things that you can act on. But the problem is it does require a lot of processing to do this. It's not something that happens automatically. The benefit is that they are very flexible tools, that they're something that you can really make your own and really get the most out of if you know how to go about doing that. That really gets into where they have a bit of an issue, which is Google Analytics, SEMrush, any of these tools that you use to process a lot of site data, they have a very steep learning curve. And it depends on understanding all of these functions and features and getting them to work together. And that's something that requires a lot of skill and practice. The initial part of the process, the hooking up of the actual tool, is also vital. Those various settings that you set at the beginning of the process really determine whether you're gathering the right data or if you're just straight up missing the important parts of your site that you need to have visibility into. The other thing is, unlike dashboards and storytelling, they're not really designed to provide a sort of immediate access to the information. They're about providing all of the information, and you have to know how to drill down and get what you want out of it. So the idea behind the dashboards and the storytelling is then that we take this very hard to read tool that requires a lot of skill to understand and set up and interpret it into something so people don't have to try and interact with this, and that we can, easily get our point across in presentations. That setup phase, that initial process of setting up Google Analytics or any tool that's going to be regularly scanning your site for data, is the most important part when it comes to making an analysis tool useful. There's lots of different questions to consider when you're setting up the tool and getting it hooked into your site. Obviously, are the data streams working? Is it actually pulling in data from the right place? Do you want to try and move the internal traffic out of your data? So do you want to filter by IP, and you want to make sure that you're getting only the traffic that you want to get data on? That's another element of setup. Are you making sure that you're using event tracking tools to track the right performance indicators and the things that you really want to make sure you're measuring? Or maybe you're making an active campaign to try and increase, let's say, conversions or form submissions on a site. If you can't track those form submissions, then the data analysis tool is ultimately worthless to you guys because your efforts won't be trackable. So that's where it's really important to make sure that you're tracking those events. Attribution is really important as well. Are we making sure that we're dialed in on what is actually coming from which source so that we can drill in later and find out, okay, which traffic source led to the most sales, et cetera, or some question like that? If you're an e-commerce operation, are you tracking your inventory adequately? And do you have some tool in mind, whether it's GA or Shopify or any sort of e-commerce tool, to make sure that you have visibility into how things are moving through your site? Some tools like GA will give you live data for your site, but some demand either a manual scan or you set up a frequency of scans to give you a suite of data rather. And in that case, what's the workflow for initiating that scan? Are you going to do it manually, or do you set it up with a particular frequency so that you just come back and the tool's already run? And then finally, on the other end of all that, do you have someone who's able to take all that data and process it into a dashboard or into storytelling, someone that can actually interpret this data and use it to guide the actionable insights and to try and help people understand what the path forward is for your site?